Welcome to the High Achieving Parents Podcast. I am your host, Severine Nassens, and I invite you to join us as we explore the reality and family experiences of high achieving parents around the globe. Learn from like-minded parents who do believe balance is possible, but not a one-size-fits-all proposition. Stay tuned for conversations about how my guests juggle successful careers in parenthood to make it all work in their own way. Will we find a common thread throughout these interviews? Let's find out. Today, I have a very special guest with me. She, as me, is a Belgian citizen, moved to Mexico, married a Mexican. She's got kids that are half Mexican, half Belgian. So is my daughter. So we've got plenty of things in common. And the greatest thing of all is that she is an author of really cool books for youth and for moms and dads, because I read it too, and it is my absolute favorite pastime to go into this world of fantasy. So please welcome Rae Knightly. So blessed to have you on this podcast, and really honored to have you share your story with the audience on how you've become a high achiever by writing. You're already 6 books in. 6 books is about to come out. We'll share all about the books later for people to go check those out. So welcome to the podcast, and please share your story with us. How did it all begin?
Thank you, Severin. It's great to see you, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited about this. So I hope I can share some tips with you about everything that's been going on and the difficulties I've been going through in the past years, and how it all came together in the end. So yes, so my name is Rae Knightly. I'm an author of science fiction adventure stories for teenagers, and I actually just published the 6th book. It's
Is it
just
available?
came out a few weeks. It's available now. So
congratulations!
Thank you, and it's going really well. I'm very happy with the results. I'm a self-published author, so that means I basically do everything myself. Obviously, I write the story, I put it all together, I promote it, I do the marketing, and I found someone to do the book covers, and I have an editor, because obviously, like you, I guess English isn't our first language, and so I definitely need someone to just make sure everything flows and is correct.
How did I understand that you used to work a regular job, but you actually gave that up to dedicate all of your time to your books, right?
Yes, that happened recently. So I worked full time as an administrative assistant, and I had several jobs, full time jobs. And back then, my husband and I had 2 children, and it was becoming very difficult at that point. Both of us working full time and working quite far away. So, and our children were at the daycare all day long. It was very exhausting for everyone. So at some point, we decided that I should change, and I found a part-time job near where we live. And that's when I actually started doing 2 jobs. I had my part-time job, and I also started writing books, and I also did translation work.
Mm-hmm.
But then that company closed, and that was actually a great it was a signal for me to really go for it and just work full-time on translations and on my books. But just recently, since the first of this year, I had to close down my translation company because my books have taken off. And so I'm going to be
Mhm.
doing that full time.
How has the success with your books affected and or benefited your family?
Well, I think right from the start, my husband and I were thinking, how can we improve our lives? Because, as I said before, both of us working full time with small children that we barely saw.
Mhm.
It didn't feel right. When you have children, you want to be with them,
Yes,
and it just wasn't possible. So we were very consciously thinking about this. How can we improve our lives and be more together as a family? So the solution was one of us should find a job that we can do from home.
exactly.
And that's sort of where the ideas came up about doing translation work, about writing books and finding out how to publish them, how to sell them. And so it was gradual. It takes time. And it's a big project. So, but once it's a step every day, it's a step forward. And so in the end, it pays off.
Wow,
So
I think it's amazing how you were able to find your passion in writing those books, in bringing those stories out, and be dedicated to that. Has that been a positive change for you? To
yes, absolutely. And it didn't happen right away. I tried several things first. I tried different business opportunities, and nothing was really working. And I couldn't find the right job for me. And it wasn't until I started writing stories that I realized, okay, this is it. This is me. So it takes a couple of tries. It doesn't always work out from the first try. So you have to give yourself a bit of a chance to figure things out and not give up.
obviously, how
Yeah.
do you keep your passion and your inspiration flowing?
Uh, that's pretty easy now, I would say. It wasn't at the beginning because it's actually really terrifying to publish your first book because it's a piece of your soul and you don't know how well it will be received. You don't know if anyone will read it. And you worked really hard on this and you're scared that people will look away or give you one-star reviews. So the first publication is very scary.
Yeah,
So but once you realize that you don't have to please everybody, it's impossible to please all the readers in the world.
exactly.
No, you're focusing on certain readers and you have to find them. And of course, they'll love your story because that's what they're looking for. And so when you start getting that feedback that, we enjoy what you're writing, we'd like to read some more, well, that really opens up all the possibilities and it, it really gets more stories flowing. You say, okay, I, I'm ready. I've got lots more stories. Here I go.
Amazing. Do you involve the kids in the story development?
That's very funny. The answer is no, absolutely not. And the reason is they don't like science fiction and they get really scared.
Really? Wow.
So, I
They're
mean,
still young though.
yes, I mean, my daughter is the right age. She's 12. She's ready for this type of book. But it's actually my 9-year-old son who started reading them. And he read book one, book two, and then he stopped halfway through book three and said, Mom, this is too scary. And I said, it's okay. I mean, you're actually way too young to be reading this. But my point is, and has always been very clear to me from the start, I would never force anyone to read a book that they don't want to read.
Exactly.
If you love romance, I'm not going to give you hardcore science fiction or something like that to read. And so it's they'll read it when they're ready. All their friends have read them.
Well,
So,
usually we have our fan base outside the family, not
yes.
necessarily inside the family. So, well, I truly admire your imagination and the way that you write these books. I get so hooked on them. I can't stop. I can't just when I get started on one of your books, I have to finish it because it's such an intriguing story. Now, where
That's
do you
great.
get your inspiration from?
Well, it all started. I've always wanted to write. I've always had lots of stories since I was young, and I read a lot when I was young. And I thought, I would love to write my own stories one day too. But between having the idea in your head and having a physical book, that's a huge step. So I think I had to be older and wiser to actually be able to do this. I wasn't able to do this before. And I realized that in order to complete a project that takes time, you have to break it down in small pieces.
Hmm.
And you have to work at it constantly, every day, a little bit, every day, a little bit. And so when I decided that I wanted to write, I thought, okay, I'm going to be totally open and I'm going to write a story, something simple. And where do I start? And so I came up with one of the characters' names while I was driving to work, on my long commute. And I thought, okay, I've got a name. Who is this person? What is he going to do? Is it a he or she? Is it a fantastical being? Is it an alien? And you just start from there. You just have to start from the source and make it grow. And and that's how it turned into a 6-book series. So you have to work at it every day and be very constant. And as you work at it, it just grows
Hmm.
like a like a tree.
What does a typical day for Rae Knightly look like?
It depends on the day. It's as a mom, and especially in these times, where we're self-isolating because of COVID-19. The children are home. We're all home, and so um, every day is different because it depends mostly on what the children are doing.
Hmm.
Are they at school? Do they have homework? Do they have activities? Do they have a cold? Have they been out today? Have they had some sunshine? So it kind of everything turns around that. Uh, and whatever time is left is okay, this is working time. So basically, I will usually work in the morning while they are concentrating on school, and unless I have to be there with them. And then I'll spend the afternoon with them and spend some quality time with them.
Hmm.
And then in the evening, when they're in bed, then I'll come and work another 3 hours or so. And that's really intensive work where I'm really
Hmm.
concentrating and nobody's interrupting me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
How do you manage? I mean, I understand that you're really focusing on the children during the day. How do you balance things out? Because one of the key things that I'm investigating is how other parents balance out the family life with the professional life. How do you set those priorities? How do you bring that balance, understanding it's not the perfect balance, it's just managing everything in place? What would your key element be there to provide that balance for yourself?
Well, in my case, I'm extremely lucky to have I have my mother-in-law and my husband here with me right now since we've been in self-isolation, and my husband helps me out tremendously. So, uh, but the situation is different for everyone, and so there are things that will be helpful for one person and might not be helpful for another person. So even though I'm surrounded and I'm getting help, it's still very hard because the dishes pile up and the dirty clothes pile up, and you have to cook, and you have to see that the fridge is full, and there's a whole bunch of administrative work just keeping the house going in general. So so there's a pile of work that needs to be done no matter what your situation is. And so what I found is really, and I've been very conscious about this, is there are 24 hours in a day. That's it.
Yes.
So you have to get things done in those 24 hours. And number one, you have to know who you are, what your limits are, um, how much energy do you have, how much time do you spend with family, how much time do you spend sleeping. My husband needs 6 to 7 hours sleep. I need 8 hours. So I need to combine that in those 24 hours. Okay, I need 8 hours sleep. This is important. If I don't get those 8 hours, I'm going to burn out. I'm going to be sick. I'm not going to feel well. So you have to take care of yourself, and that's why you have to know what your limits are.
Mm-hmm.
And so, knowing that, once you know the things that you have to do every day, once you've calculated that into those 24 hours, what is left and what you do with that time that is left. And so you have to be very realistic about how much you can do in that time. So it's probably maybe going to be three things. And what are those three things going to be? So make sure in the morning you think, okay, what three things am I going to achieve today? And for me, it might be writing a chapter of a book, or it might be marketing, or doing a podcast, or anything that you need to do in that day.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mustn't take on too big of a chunk of work, because then you're going to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you'll just stress out and freeze, and that has happened to me a lot of times. So the thing is to know yourself, to know when to say no, and to just maybe do three things a day, three important things a day, every day.
All right. What is something important that I picked up earlier is that you say you break it out. You break up the things into little chunks. You break it up in smaller, manageable pieces, and plan that out throughout your day. So time management,
Yes.
really, really important. Thank you for sharing that, and I think it brings in a great insight. Also, as moms, especially speaking as a mother, I recognize that there's so many things on our plate, and we want to get it all done at the same time. So managing that by pieces. I used to multitask so much, and it would lead to burnout, because in the end you're not focused on anything at all. You're all over the place. So, and you become overwhelmed, and it's all like a spiral pulling you down. So I think it's really important to get that clarity on what it is you need to get done, manage that throughout your day, and prioritize yourself. And that is so important. And thank you for bringing that up. Is it taking knowing who you are and learning to say no, really
Yes,
knowing
that's
to,
very difficult.
to give that honest no, because we grow up, most of us grow up in a world where, well, you're supposed to say yes to almost everything, right? So learning to say no, and set healthy limits, healthy boundaries for yourself, and take care. It's like in the airplane, oxygen mask, you first and then the rest, right? Take good care of yourself. Now, talking about taking care, about quality time, do you and your husband have any specific routines to do that self-care, to get out of the professional mayhem and the family mayhem, and to kind of chill and relax, to find each other again?
Um, well, yes and no. It's hasn't been easy. So basically, my husband 2 years ago was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, colon and liver cancer. And so we've been living with that diagnosis for 2 years now. And COVID-19 happened right in the middle of his treatment. So that shook up our family completely. It's been very, very hard to live with that diagnosis. But fortunately, he's finished his treatment now. And so, yes. And so I think what has gotten us through these difficult times is that both of us are quite positive people. We like to look ahead, and we're also very realistic about things. Okay, cancer. Okay, this is bad, but what do you do about it? How are we going to deal with this? And okay, we need surgery. Okay, we're getting surgery. We need chemo. Okay, we're getting chemo. And so it just is
It
what
is
it
what it
is, and
is.
we just have to get it done. And I think my husband and I both very regularly ask each other, how are you? Are you okay right now? How are you mentally? How are you health wise? Uh,
You
so
check in.
we check in very, very regularly. And we also, sometimes before I publish a book, for example, I have a lot of work. So he'll step up and take care of the kids, and uh, he might get food on the table, or he'll do homework with them to give me time to finish. But once the book is published, then maybe we can reverse the roles, and then I can give him more time, and so and I also make sure that at least twice a week, we have a movie night or a TV dinner, and we're together, and uh,
Couples moment
yes, or with a
or the
couple
family.
or family, whichever works. And then obviously with COVID-19, we're together all the
All the
time.
time.
So there are no candlelight dinners in a restaurant, but that will come.
You can have a candlelight dinner on the deck outside
Yes, there you go.
when it's not snowing in Canada.
Exactly. Yeah, because I live in Canada right now. Just
Yeah.
um,
For the
because
record,
you mentioned that I lived in
Mexico.
Mexico, but I live in Canada right
Yeah.
now.
It's amazing how our travels, how we meet each other, and then everybody moves on, and we're all over the place. But thanks to the internet, we're able to connect
Yes,
and to share these moments. I'm really
that's
grateful
fantastic.
for you sharing your experiences with us. Um, before we round up this podcast, what would one piece of advice be that you would like to share with other parents?
Well, I think this is pretty, um, it's pretty clear, and it's pretty logical, but I think it needs to be said. When you have children, the way you use your time is going to change completely.
Yes.
And I think a lot of parents aren't aware of this, that when you have a child, everything changes. Your day completely changes. You're going to sleep less. You're going to have less time to do the things you used to do or the things you enjoy doing. So I think a lot of parents, me included, are not really aware of this, and kind of think, well, things are going to be as usual, and I'll
We'll
just have a
manage.
child. But
We'll manage.
but it isn't so. So again, you have to think about those 24 hours. And now these children, this baby comes into the family, and you have to be conscious that they're going to take up a big chunk of your time.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of parents don't realize this, and will start arguing a lot because they don't realize that they kind of start blaming each other, uh, that they lack time to do the things they had time to do before.
Yeah.
But it's not the parents' fault. It's simply your time frame has changed. The way you manage your time has changed, and
Mhm.
you have to include that in your life. And as time goes by, the children will grow, and again, you will have more and more time to do the things you liked to do before. So it's actually a short passage in your life that is going to be very difficult to adapt to. But it gets better. And
It does.
in that
There is
sense,
hope.
and in that sense, you have to be aware that your children are going to be small only once.
Yes.
So enjoy it while you can, because they're going to grow up and they're going to go away eventually, and then you're going to miss them. So make the most of it and enjoy it while they're at home.
I totally agree with that. And I was one of those moms that thought that, oh, well, I'll just take that on, right? Another 24-hour job a day. Well,
yeah, sure.
I'll manage. And I had to look for some options there because I did not.
No.
It does indeed become, especially when we're high achievers and we're focused professionally, we want to achieve our goals as professionals. Yes. There is a time where you have to not necessarily pause your professional aspirations, but adjust. It's all about adjusting and about understanding that that child depends on you. And especially, like you mentioned, when they're small, they require your full attention. And as they grow up, when they become teenagers, then you crave being able to give them that attention, and they don't want it anymore.
Exactly.
So it is indeed a short period of time, and wise advice. Enjoy it while it lasts. Thank you so much, Rae, for sharing your wisdom with us. Please do share where people can find your books, and just tell us briefly the main storyline of Ben Archer.
These books are, it's actually called the Alien Skill series, and the main character is called Ben Archer. And these books are available on Amazon or upon request at your local bookstore. You can also look me up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I have a website as well, www.raeknightly.com. And these stories are mainly aimed at 10 to 14-year-old boys, but I have people of all ages reading the books, so
including me.
There you go. And it's basically the story of a boy who witnesses the fall of alien spacecraft, and he is entrusted with an alien superpower. And he has to go on the run from government agents with the only alien survivor of the crash. So that's the start of the story.
It's an amazing storyline, and maybe aimed at boys 10 to 14. I promise, as an adult, as a 40-something-year-old mom, I'm very into this story. It's fun to read. It's very well written, and I recommend it to everyone. Thank you so much for sharing that gift you have of writing amazing stories with a lot of suspense in it, with a lot of intriguing plots in there. So really, really cool. Highly recommended. I will make sure to drop the links to your website and your social media down below for everyone to come visit and get your books.
Right. Thank you.
Well, thank you once again for joining me, Rae. And I wish you all the best. Much love to the entire family. And I'm happy to hear that your husband is doing a lot better. And
thank you.
Full recovery with the love and support of your family. Thank you once again. And
thank you so much.
Talk to you soon. I'm already looking forward to our next session. What was your major takeaway from this one? I'd love to hear from you. Come and share your insights with me on social media at Coach Séverine Nassens, and visit highachievingparents.com for more information on how you too can find clarity and obtain the tools to find fulfillment in both your professional and family life. Talk to you soon.